In the biggest moments of your life or in your darkest hour, will you be enough? Can you count on yourself, and can others count on you? If everything you rely on was taken from you and you had to stand alone in front of the world and define yourself, what would you say? I am James Dean Hensel. I am a son of God, created with purpose. I am the son of Myron Hensel, a man who would not be moved. I am the husband to Kristen Hensel, my fish girl. I am the father of Taylor and Brittany Hensel, daughters of promise. I am a challenger, exhorter, and an encourager born to fight. I will run to the battle, for in the battle I find peace. I commit to live my life anchored in my values. I commit to make choices and decisions based on my code. I believe in fight, work, hope, faith, team, family, excellence, purpose, responsibility, and love. I will have the strength to do what is right. Honor is the foundation of my code. I commit to live my life anchored in my values. I will represent myself, my family, and my country with the character and dignity necessary to serve with purpose and with hope.
Hey, I'm Colby Jubenville, and I'd like to welcome you to the campus of Middle Tennessee State University and the Center for Student Coaching and Success. And with me today in studio is Mr. Jim Hensel.
Good morning, sir.
Jim, we're glad you're here. We're all the way into challenge number 5, but before we get into that challenge, I'd like to again set the stage briefly to talk about the importance of emotional intelligence.
Sure.
Why, and this is something that you taught me that I think is so important, is you said, Colby, for students to understand emotional intelligence, you got to serve it up in a way that they could get it.
Yeah, serve it up in a way you can get it.
And so what this book is, Grind Your Bee, The Quest for Purpose, is really a reflection of the process you went through to build your own emotional intelligence, and that now you work all over the country teaching others how to build emotional intelligence so that really emotional intelligence becomes a competitive advantage for them in the workplace, and then also in how they live their lives in terms of values and belief and purpose.
Absolutely.
And so it is the quest for purpose. You do say that there are rules for the game, but set the stage briefly and say, this is where I was, and this is how, what was that defining moment? Let's just start there. What was that defining moment? Because in the book, you know this, and I know that they've heard it many times, but I think the quote is so powerful. But it says, in your biggest moments of your life, or in your darkest hour, will you be enough?
I love to start with that question. And for me personally in my life, I wasn't enough. My darkest moment, I think the story starts there for me. I'm face down, depressed on the floor. My wife has left. I've got 2 little girls. They're 3 and 5. And I mean, I really realize in this dark place, I got no clue who I am. I don't really know what I believe, and I don't know how to move forward. I guess the key for me was I just didn't know how to get up and what to do the next day. I had no roadmap or plan for my life.
And let's stop there.
Sure.
Because I think that that's probably, and one of the reasons that in the center that we think emotional intelligence is so important is, I would say that's probably a thought that resonates with a lot of people.
Sure.
I didn't have a plan.
Sure.
I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know how to get up off the ground.
No matter where I go, and this is not a negative thing necessarily.
Sure.
We all are at that space at some point. I think the quote says, in your darkest moment or in your greatest opportunity. And as I looked at my life, I found myself in a dark spot, and as I look back, I think I missed a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
And so this idea of really having a handle on who I was and what I believed became the quest for me to define myself. Understanding later, as I developed this process and I began to help other people, that it was raising my emotional intelligence IQ was something that I came to. But I didn't start out, thinking, man, I need to raise that emotional intelligence IQ. I didn't know that I even really understood that at that point. It really was just about, shoot, tomorrow, what do I do?
Well, and you say it right here. Can you count on yourself? And can others count on you? And it's in the most simplest form, that really is emotional intelligence.
Right. Absolutely. Emotional intelligence, understanding your emotions.
understanding other people's emotions, being able to define those emotions correctly, and then using those definitions, what you find out about that, to make a choice or a decision that really moves your life forward in purpose. That's kind of my paraphrase of emotional intelligence.
I think you just touched all the challenges right there.
Bang.
All the road.
Bang.
It starts with B. Explain that concept one more time, because part of what I want to have happen in this video series is that the reinforcement of these ideas, sooner or later they start to see that there is a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
That they see that there is a place that they can start this process, and the place that you start this process is the B, right?
Absolutely.
What is the B?
I think the power in this book is it's a process. It's not the only process. It's not the only way. You know, we're not necessarily going to connect with everybody,
right.
But as I began to develop and work, people would say all the time, well, what's your purpose, or what's your dreams, or write down goals, and I didn't know how to do any of that.
Yeah.
And so I think the power in this is there's a process here, and so anybody can sit down, you know, they can work at it, they can go through the steps and have some answers for their life, and so it does start with this idea of B.
Yep.
And it's a term, capital B, capital E, with quotes around it. That's how I visualize it.
Right.
And it's a term I came up with that encompasses your talents, your values or your beliefs, and then ultimately your purpose.
Love it.
So we want to be able to put language and define what that is. It's different for each one of us. There are really no right or wrong answers in this game.
And that's a critical piece to this.
It's huge.
Putting language to the process.
Right.
Talents,
Values
and beliefs.
Values, beliefs, and purpose.
And purpose is the hard skill set that has to be developed in
Right.
this.
Absolutely.
And in fact, if you do click on this particular code, you will see an example of how you did that.
Yeah, you know, so here I am in this depressed space, and I'm watching the movie Gladiator.
Yeah.
And I put the kids to sleep, and I just wanted to kick in a guy movie, you know. And it jumps to this scene where the main character, Maximus, is wearing a mask, so he hasn't identified himself. He's kind of this gladiator fighting solo, and no one knows who he is. Yeah. And the evil character, the young Caesar in the movie, demands that he take off the mask and define himself. And they're on the arena floor in the Colosseum.
Yeah.
And Maximus flips off his mask, and in that moment, he defines himself. My name is Maximus Aurelius Decimus, general of the Felix legions, father to a murdered wife, father to a murdered son. And he goes through and he really describes, here's who I am,
right.
a purpose statement, here's what I believe, and here's what I'm going to do. And so that was the genesis for me. That was the inspiration. Wow, you know what? I'm going to be able to answer those questions for myself. And so I wrote out that code for myself.
And that's the B.
That's the B.
And so you end this quote by saying, if everything you rely on was taken from you and you had to stand alone in the front of the world and define yourself, what would you say? And what we're saying is that those that choose to buy into this process, those that choose to take the time to go through that self-discovery,
right,
to understand themselves and then be able to turn that into language that can help you in ways that are so powerful.
It's a track to run down. Instead of, I tell you what, here's the challenge. It's a challenge to do the work to define yourself because it takes work. It takes some maturity to want to, and it takes some work. And in the culture that we live in, there's a lot that pulls at us. From Twitter to Instagram so you got to get quiet. You got to really want to do some personal development.
Get out of the story.
Get out of the story. We'll definitely touch on that. So you got to want to do that. But in the end, the hard part is if you do define yourself, will you live it?
Yeah, that is the hard part.
Once you get it written down, will you live it?
Yeah.
So honestly, in my opinion, most people haven't really done the hard work to really put in the language or the track to run down, and that's really the starting spot.
Love it. The track to run down.